This is June 23rd, 2026, and in the continuing series of dialogues of the Folks Lead group, we have Paula slash Perro Teitelbaum with us, which is quite a pleasure and an honor. And we just have, an informal discussion, but we'd like you to start with, an idea of what your interests are and what your thoughts are about um, the Yiddish folk song. And particularly, we've been interested in that analytical approaches, but whatever suits you is fine. Uh, so yeah, maybe for about 10, 15 minutes or something.
Okay. So I am not a great speaker, so I'm going to start giving you a little bit of um, a context by um, showing us a few visuals. If I can share the screen.
This might be a first in this group. Someone actually prepared to show visuals.
Well, because all of you are very good speakers and I am not, so I'm going to lead on.
Right. Yeah,
Can you give me screen sharing ability?
Wait a minute, I keep forgetting how to do make a co-host. Oh, I do.
So next to
I got it. Yeah,
share screen is a little arrow.
No, I have to make you co-host.
Co-host.
Make co-host. There you are. Okay.
Promise I won't abuse the power.
You're now the
co-host. Okay, so I'm a co-host, but I can't. Oh yeah, I need to have the Zoom.
Share screen.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay.
All right.
This is not what you need. Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about my connection to Yiddish songs, not necessarily folk songs, but including folk songs and where I learned them. So growing up in Poland, I learned Yiddish songs from my father, who was not a singer. He used to say about himself, "Ich kann erzählen ein Lied." I can tell a song, but he loved singing, and he appreciated songs, and he sang them with great feeling, although not with great musicality. So this is a photograph of my father and his mother and his two younger brothers. When people talk about the Yiddish folk song, they talk about the old country. So this is not this was after the Holocaust. I was born after the Holocaust. The old country was pretty much gone. Very few Jews survived, you know the story. And most Polish Jews who lived in Poland after the war took refuge in the USSR and returned when they were allowed to return and tried to build a Jewish life there if they didn't immediately smuggle themselves across to the West, which many did. So this is my father and his brothers and my grandmother. They survived in Central Asia, in Kazakhstan. They came back in 1946, and they settled in a tiny town, Yimbica, near Wrocław. Wrocław was the big city. And that's where they lived for a while. Next picture. What happened? Oh, into their lives came Belka, the original flower girl. She was lively and talented. She sang She sang and she recited poetry and she taught children in the Jewish school. There were Jewish schools in Poland, set up in Poland after the war.
Mm.
She married my uncle Reuven, and they had 3 children, my only first cousins. And they moved in 1960, they left for Venezuela. And I visited them there in 1975 in Caracas, Venezuela. This is me with my Aunt Belke, my Uncle Reven. And she was a source of many songs that I learned.
All right, lunch is ready.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Okay, we're
that
ready.
wasn't for me.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. I was born in Wrocław in Poland in 1954. That's me and my father and my mother. As I said, I learned some songs from my father, and then I also was involved in, I went to Jewish camps and Jewish schools, Jewish school once, um, camps. Um, this was a day camp. Here I am.
Great
Um,
photos, Paula.
yeah.
Yeah.
We did not live in a Jewish ghetto. There was no Jewish ghetto. That's my brother and me played with non-Jewish children from our building, from the next building. Um, um, Here is the end of first grade. My little brother snuck into the photo. This is me and my classmates. The Jewish school was not in the neighborhood where I lived. I had to use 2 streetcars to get there, but I was with other Jewish children. That was the choice my parents made to send me to a Jewish school. We can talk about what kind of school it was. It was not a religious school. There was no traditional content in any of the subjects. And by the time I went to school, all the subjects were in Polish. We had Yiddish language classes, and for a very short time, I also had a Jewish history class. Here's some of my classmates. That's me here. In front of the school, in the school field. During winter recess, there was a Jewish club where they had activities for adults, children, younger children, older children. Here
Was that
we
you at the
are.
table there?
Yes, that's me
Right.
with short hair. Yeah. And that was another place where there were opportunities to learn and to perform. And this is me performing at the club. I was singing Bina Bocher Ahultai from Moshe Kulbach in 1963 in costume. This is another performance, a mass scene, performing Goldfaden's operetta, Die Cherede. It was directed by Pesach Erlich, who was a member of the Yiddish theater. I learned there were 2 Yiddish theaters after the war, one in Lodz and one in Wrocław. And then they joined together and they moved to Warsaw. The Warsaw Yiddish Theater toured not only abroad, but also internally. And I got to see theater performances in Yiddish a lot. This is me and my classmates at the Warsaw Ghetto Memorial to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which was in my city, in Wrocław. So this was just showing you a little bit of Jewish life in Poland through my lens. My teachers, Sonia Borgstein-Orgielewska, worked in the Jewish school where I went. I learned songs from her. Her mother was apparently a very good singer and had a very large repertoire. I learned that from my father, who met her at the Jewish resort. Anyway, Sonia was very young when she started teaching in our school. She was a teacher in our school, and she also, Marek Webb, who you might know from the YIVO, was a teacher in my school, but Marek taught the upper grades. I never had him as a teacher. And she was also a counselor at Jewish camps during the summer. And here I am, and she was my counselor. This was an excursion from a camp near Warsaw. And we were visiting the Łazienki Park.
Mm.
Here is Sonia visiting New York, and here me in 2005. These are two of my classmates and one from a grade that was 1 year lower below me. So that was the old country, which was no longer old. And here is the new country, Yiddish in New York. I learned more Yiddish songs in New York. 4 years after I came to the United States, I engaged with the Yiddish-speaking community here. And in 1971, 1972, and 1973, I was a counselor and a Yiddish teacher, although I had never done either one of these jobs. The administration just hired me on faith, and their attitude was, "You'll figure it out." And I was at Camp Hemshech, which was a very vibrant Yiddish camp founded by Bundes survivors. I met people of my generation who shared my attachment to the Yiddish language and culture. Just because I grew up with Yiddish in the house, in the home, and went to a Yiddish school doesn't mean that didn't mean that you automatically were going to have an attachment to it. Most of my classmates, my friends from Poland, did not make any effort to maintain their whatever they learned and in school or from home, and they're not fluent, and they cannot read today. And they were not interested in seeking out ways to maintain their bonds with this culture. And I was one of those children who listened to adults and was receptive to their stories and the language and absorbed it. So here are two people that I made contact with and shared Yiddish song with. Do you recognize anybody here?
Hey, Josh.
There's Josh and there is Philip Yucht. And Josh was one of the people who was whom I met and became a friend for all these years. And this picture was taken by at a performance of Yiddish song that Mark Slobin invited us to perform. Remember that event? Was at your school. Is Mark there? He's not there.
He is. He is. He's looking.
Stepped away.
He's checking it
Anyway,
out.
Sorry, I turned off my audio. So you were at Wesleyan?
yes, this was 1975.
Wow,
This is Josh and
that's
me and
great.
Philip Yucht.
That's great. Yeah, that's when I just started bringing Yiddish culture to Wesleyan, right?
Yeah, so I I have a picture of it.
Oh,
It's
that's
proof.
beautiful. That's at Wesleyan, really?
Yes,
Fantastic. Why do I not remember this? I'm sorry to say.
you probably had many of these events. I don't have any more pictures because the rest is history. I met all of you, and I have a, but I don't need to share my screen anymore. Um, so we can stop at any point. I can talk about songs, um, and the people I learned them from, but you can stop me at any point. So before I went to school, I learned songs from my father. My father sang songs that, um, like, they were mostly about struggle and they were revolutionary songs. They were songs like In Kampf, gehasst und getrieben von David Edelstadt. Kuznie bei dem Feuer, in der Kuznie bei dem Feuer steht der Schmieder und er Schmied. Er klappt das Eisen, Funken, Feuer fliehen und er singt dabei ein Lied. Songs about struggling for freedom, struggling against oppression. He also loved the song Hate Sigalach, and he told me about before the war he grew up in Govorove, which was really a village, not even a shtetl. Young Jewish people used to get together and sing, and somebody would come from another town and bring new songs, new to the local people, and they would learn them in no time at all. In one evening, they would learn a new song. And I think people's memory is used to memorizing new songs if you're not overwhelmed, overstimulated with. So people in the past used to memorize things much quicker. When I went to school, Sonia Burgstein, my teacher, was the source of much of my learning of Yiddish songs. And I was thinking about the songs that we learned in school. And they were songs about poverty and about struggle, same theme. I learned Mangers auf dem Weg steht der Baum in school. I also learned My Yingele, Maurice Rosenfeld, a lot of songs by Avram Reisen about creating a better world. Partisaner hymn, of course, Stil die Nacht is ausgesternt, ghetto songs, Macht zu die Egelach, Rivkele, die Shabbosdike. And I thought about the repertoire that we learned in school. And then also in camp, that's where I learned Arum dem Fa, and a song that I found in song collection recently called Kartoffelach, not bulbus, but Kartoffelach. And it's a song about being in summer camp. I found it in a collection of songs. I can sing it for you later if you want. And then I was involved for a short time with an amateur drama group. There were mostly adults in the drama groups, and my classmate and I joined it. And the drama group had performances, and I heard new repertoire there, new to me. Affen Pripetschik, Moischele, mein Freund, Reisele, Cheribim. I was wondering, why didn't I hear those songs in school? Why didn't I learn those songs in school? And it occurred to me that Affen Pripetschik is about a cheder and a rebbe. Moischele, mein Freund, has a reference to der alte Rebbe. Reisele is about frumkeit, tradition, traditional customs, and something that we were exposed to in the school, not in my home either. What else? Had a great deal of influence on the way I saw Yiddish. It was the language of my home. My parents spoke Yiddish to each other. My parents spoke to their Jewish acquaintances on the street in Yiddish. They were not embarrassed to speak Yiddish in public. And the theater was another aspect of language use that I saw. It was the language of art. And so when I came to the United States and I encountered this attitude of Yiddish as being the language, the funny language, the language of curses and vulgar jokes, the vulgar punchlines. I was shocked because to me it was not that at all. So I left Poland in 1967 and came to the United States, reunited with my uncle Velvel, who lived here. And there were more sources of encounters with Yiddish and Yiddish song. WEVD radio station, WEVD, the Vorwärts and the Tag Morgenjournal were still around. Die Freiheit was still around. So I was exposed to that. And as I showed you before, Camp Hemshech I learned more songs that I can tell you in Camp Hemshech. It was a very vibrant environment. And instead of color war, we had Hemshech Yada. The teams were Martha Gebirtig against Mark Warszawski. So each team had to do a number of art projects and write a Yiddish original song, an English original song, create some skits, write cheers for the sports teams that we had. It was all within 3 days, learn songs, make an art banner on the theme of the songs of the particular writer. So I did learn a lot of songs in a short time. It was a very intense environment for learning. I also told you I met my peers. I made contact with Jugendruf, with the Volksbühne, in which I for a number of performances. The Yivo, the Arbetering, and it opened up of Yiddish activity in New York City to me. My contemporaries in art, I had, it was a social circle. We shared Friday night dinners, we sang songs, we went on picnics and sang together, and it was very unique. I didn't have that in Poland. My life in Poland was in Polish. I studied Yiddish in school. I heard a lot of Yiddish, but I didn't speak it. So that was a shift. In 1974, I studied at the YIVO summer program. Yaji Zeltman, who was the administrator of the summer program, also hired me to teach a Yiddish song workshop, which is part of the YIVO summer program to this day. And I did that. 1975, I went to Venezuela, and I reconnected with my Aunt Belke. I asked her if she remembered any of the songs that she knew from her childhood and from teaching in the. And she went and got and it was full of lists of songs. It was full of lyrics, and I got a chance to record her and learn from her. Some of those songs are in the recording De Grine Katschke, which I co-produced with Lawrence Glamberg, which came out in 1997, I think. In the 80s, Michael Alpert got me involved with Nasze Tradycji Festival. And through that, I met Bronya Sakina, a wonderful folk singer and just a wonderful person. And we had a nice friendship. I learned many of her songs. The next big event in my life that involved Yiddish song was I had two daughters in 1988 and 1991. I had Shifra and Leah, and I spoke Yiddish with them and I sang with them. And it was because of them that I embarked on the recording project in the Gdina. We didn't have recordings of Yiddish songs for children at that point. We had a few, not enough. We had lullabies. We didn't have other songs. I don't remember when I started teaching at the Workers' Circle and at YIVO, but I started teaching there, I think, in the 80s. And I integrate songs in my teaching practice. Sometimes it's to teach a grammar point, sometimes to teach vocabulary that's thematically connected to other things, sometimes to teach culture. But songs enter your brain through a different channel. And songs, if you engage with them enough, they stay, whereas other things don't stay. So songs are a gold mine for teaching language. In 1987, that was before my children were born, but 87 through 2014, I taught Yiddish at Kless Camp. There, I also developed a Yiddish workshop for Yiddish singers who don't know Yiddish, or singers who have trouble pronouncing lyrics well. And so it was really a mini phonetics course for singers. And in 1997 was when Living Traditions issued the CD that Lawrence Glumberg and I worked on together, Die Grüne Katschke, songs for children of all ages. Over the years, I also maintained a friendship with Bela Schechter Gottesman, learned her songs and participated in her Zingerei events and recording projects. And now I have two grandchildren. They were born in 2019 and 2023. Mendel is now 7 years old. 23rd, tomorrow is his birthday. And Friedel is 3 years old. And their mother is doing a tremendous job speaking Yiddish to them, reading Yiddish books to them, and singing to them, and playing Yiddish recordings to them, and bringing them, schlepping them to New York every August so that they can attend Yiddish Woch and commune together with other Yiddish speaking children. In recent years, YIVO has organized thematic programs in the winter, and among them are song workshops. And I have taught like a 4-session course in Yiddish lullabies. Another winter, I taught seasons in Yiddish song. I taught Yiddish songs and chants for children this past winter. And the students in that workshop were all either educators, early childhood educators, community educators working with Yiddish in the community. They were grandmothers or new parents who wanted to share Yiddish with their children. So specifically this last winter, I had a group that was really like a mini language and culture reclamation project. And I think that's all I have to say right now. And if you'd like to ask me some questions or respond.
Well, thanks so much for that eloquent and very comprehensive account of your song life. It's so interesting. I noticed that in the whole formation you listed, you didn't mention the songs that we've been spending most of our time on, the older lyrical women's songs that people like Bronya sang. So they were simply not there in your
In my growing up
yeah
years,
yeah
they were not there. They were not there. See, when Ethel said, women sing
right
when they mend clothing or when they do housework. Um, my mother didn't sing. She hummed. It's a whole different story about my mother. My father sang, but he didn't sing doing things. He sang for me. He talked to me. He told me story. He was a storyteller. Michael knew my father. So he was a storyteller and he was a sharer. She was not. Um, the traditional Jewish life was gone. As
right
I was saying, my old country was not the old country. It
right
was it was churvas, it was ruins, it was survivors. That's what the old country was when I was growing up. So the folk songs that I learned was Bronya, Ethel, um, uh, um, Bela. Bela sang folk songs, recordings. Itzik sings folk songs. My exposure to folk songs. But I mean, the way my father sang the songs of struggle, they were his folk songs.
Yeah.
yeah I mean I guess it shows you that even in your parents' generation it was already not a large part or a significant part of how they thought about the Yiddish song. That's
In
interesting.
in in my father's youth, yeah, I'm sure he heard folk songs, but
Yeah,
I didn't.
yeah.
It was also primarily a women's tradition, and the themes were about women and their plight and their dreams, aspirations.
And I had a chance to be with my grandmother, but she was not a singer. She was an extremely pious woman who davened 3 times a day, but she was not a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The grandmother that what was her name?
Yeah, that was the
Teitelbaum.
only grandmother I knew. Yeah,
Yes, right.
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
And most of my life, I was not in her presence
Mm.
because she left Poland when I was 3.5.
Ah,
And when she lived in Poland, she lived in that town Zimbica, and we lived in Wrocław. And then she moved to Israel and then the United States, and then she ended up in Caracas, uh, and lived with my cousins. And then she came back to New York when we came from Poland, and I got to know her a little bit. And she died in the middle 70s. Yeah, so 1970s. So I didn't know her for very long. I didn't have much of a memory of her from my childhood. I met her in my teenagehood again.
Yeah.
And no, she was not a singer.
Paula, who issued Grina Kachka?
Living traditions.
I wonder if that's not in print. I wonder if we could get that on our website.
So living,
Some sort
I think
of section
you
somehow.
have to talk to Lauren because he knows about this, but I think Jalopy is now in charge of this. You can listen to the Green Akatschke on Spotify, on Apple Music, on all these platforms, which I'm a little old-fashioned. I have my CDs that I can plug into my Blu-ray player. I don't subscribe to these platforms, but
Hmm.
So they
but
they
yeah,
got their 501c3 from uh, Living Traditions. So I guess,
Probably, yeah.
oh, I know they did. That's how, which is
Oh, okay.
fantastic because that's how they're in the world as a nonprofit and doing wonderful things.
Mhm.
It is Ethel and everybody. As Paula says, it's on Green Kachka is on Spotify. I think it's on Apple Music. I guess one thing that would be good would be to, put the notes online or, but this
I
is
think we
something.
should put the recording online. I think we should have something about children's culture music as part of our site.
Sure.
Why not?
Be a good way
Yeah,
to.
I'm not, I mean, I think probably if it's since it's for sale, also as well as streaming on Spotify and Apple Music, I'm not sure that the recording should go on the site, but certainly links to it, and maybe it'd be great to have the notes
It's
on.
on YouTube,
Yeah, right, and it's on YouTube. Yeah,
and YouTube for free.
right,
So you
right.
can access it with
That's right.
ads,
Right.
Nice.
interrupted by ads.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yes,
like
that's the difference.
Mm.
great.
Yeah. I have a one very specific question and then another one that's broader. No, I'd really wonder. First of all, I want to say that you should. There's no need for you to refer to yourself as not a speaker. You gave it like this is an amazing,
Fabulous.
wonderfully organized and prepared presentation. Not that I'm surprised because I know you been doing this for a living for a long time, but the in Poland, when you sang Arum dem Fire, I mean, you mentioned learning it at camp. Um, at what tempo did you sing it?
I don't know, how do you measure
I mean,
tempo?
was it fast, kind of the
At
way
a,
I would say that we sing
at
it
at a
in the States?
comfortable tempo. I mean, there were uh, it was unaccompanied
Yeah.
because you sat around the fire, you baked potatoes in the bonfire. Um, that was a thing. We baked potatoes in the bonfire. They're delicious from the campfire. And you sang Arum dem Fire. Do you know the song Kartoffelach?
I hum
Would-
a few bars.
Okay, I want to sing you all the lyrics. So let me get the
Goodbye, sing.
yeah. It's a funny song. And I haven't heard anybody sing it, but I found this in this collection. I said, "Oh, I know this song." Well, I singen a little wie in Lager is wenn. Auf der Sonne mir fliegen, liegen, wie die Ketzer sich brennt. Auf der Sonne mir fliegen, liegen, wie die Ketzer sich brennt. Oi, Kartoffelach zum Kaien, ist doch Tag gora Klick. Alle sagen same Chaie, alle sagen sanan Tick. Ah, Chaie, alle sagen anan Tick. Ah, Michael, sich der Warten kennt man nicht. Oi, Kartoffelach, Geschmack, Macke. Oi, beim Herzele, es zit. Oi, Kartoffelach, Geschmack, Macke. Oi, beim Herzele, es zit.
Yeah.
Great.
I wonder if there's another lyric to that melody because I have heard that melody years ago.
Well, let me leap in here with a kind
Yes,
of
leap.
an obliquely related which was when I was 16 and went to Yugoslavia for the first time and was, among other things, at the kind of youth work high school age, kind of between high school and the end of high school, and often for many kids, the summer before going to university or trade school, work camp. in the mountains in Bosnia as part of the whole Yugoslav kind of former partisan youth activity. It wasn't compulsory. It was a thing that started during the war. Anyway, we sang this. Mirno teče rijeka Sava I sa sobom nosi mulj, 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 mulj. Čika sima ribu peca I u vodi kvasi žulj, žulj, žulj. Nedaleko od tog mjesta kupala se curica caca, kupala se sasvim gola. I pomalo sunčala la la, which is a lot more risque than the song about potatoes. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
same idea
a
melodically.
melody type.
With the repetition, you mean?
Yeah, the melody has the same contour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same range, transnational modern
yeah.
kind of stuff.
There we go. Transnational modern.
Yeah,
We got it.
no Jewish content.
That's okay.
Okay.
Well, the language, kartoffel,
That's
it's in
language
Yiddish.
language is not music, nothing else.
Yeah, a Bela would
Yeah.
say the language makes it Jewish.
Sure.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
And the singer or singers.
Yeah.
And the context. It was at a Jewish
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah. So speaking of Jewish camps and stuff, I was thinking about the songs that we did learn because I mean, of course, Itzik for sure, and I mean, maybe Ethel to some extent, or maybe possibly. Well, I'll just talk about my experience. I mean, I learned many of songs, and many of the same songs in Shule in L.A. And so I was thinking of them. They're all the songs that we talked about. I mean, you mentioned. I mean, I'll just comment on some of the ones I learned. Well, for example, like you, from Pripyat, but for me, it was when I was 6, and then I heard it in my family too, of course. Zognit Kemol, Heintis Purim, Brider, es ist a Yontev Grace, Goldfaden, Auf jener Seite ja, reißt man sich schon bei die Ho, which some of you may have know. Basically, I think about the First World War. From Pyramiden, Pesach songs, Tayre Malke, Peretz's words to alle Menschen seine Brüder.
Yeah, we learned that.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Hoffengleib,
yeah,
anything that had to do with struggle,
right.
we learned, but no, not often Pripyat in school. No.
Yeah. So this was I mean the name occurred to me for them. They're like they're institutional Yiddish songs
Right.
in part, in significant part, even though that's text for them.
Well, I went to a school that was supported and controlled by the government in
Right.
communist Poland. It was not a community school. It was supported and controlled by the government. We had a Jewish history class, which I had the opportunity to take in 5th grade for 1 year. In 6th grade, they didn't offer it anymore. They decided, you need 2 histories. You have a history, and that was it. So I I benefited as much as I benefited, but
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of us, or for some of us, certainly my shul in LA was run by people who would have liked to have been the government. And I wish they had been.
Actually,
So I mean, no, but the political and the social political content was, very, and the intent was very clear. Also, I wanted to know what I was asking about Darum dem Fire is when I first went to Australia in 2000, well, in 1991, and I think you've been there too. People there in the Melbourne Bund and just the Yiddish community there sing or sang then dem Fire very slowly.
Yeah.
Slow and dreamy.
Comfortable tempo. You're sitting around the fire. It's not a marching song.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked you. So, like, about how did you sing it in Poland? Do you remember?
Yeah, at a comfortable tempo, not fast, not rhythmical. Around the fire, wir singen Lieder. That kind of tempo.
Exactly. That's what because I had a feeling the Melbourne Bund, and the Melbourne community preserved that
Uh-huh.
that dreamier kind of,
That's how they sang it in Kinderland.
really
Always. That's
slow.
how
Who sings it fast?
Oh, because I think a lot of people, well, these days, but this is going back, over 40 years from when I came to New York, sing dem Feuer, mir singen Lieder, die Nacht ist teuer, man wird nicht
that's
müde.
Prince Nazareth, probably.
No, not only by no means. I mean, I heard it well before. Well, I mean, I heard Prince Nazarov a long time ago, starting 1976. But
Well,
it's possible the melody is a Hasidic nigun too. Um,
I learned it from my aunt who learned it in a Jewish summer camp in the 30s.
yeah,
And it was the more in that leisurely style.
yeah, that's interesting. I often think of that. I've often kind of encouraged that to happen us to go back to that at the events in the Yiddish land events that I'm part of. But it helps to have a fire, though.
Not when it's indoor.
Right. What did
But
you do? Oh, go ahead.
no, that it becomes a sreife.
Yeah, yeah. What about the years between 1967 and 71? It was interesting for me to hear that you say that you didn't feel like you had
Yeah.
contact with the Yiddish world,
So,
broader.
so when I came to New York, um, I expected to go to school and learn English. And for 2 months, Albert Schenker and the UFT were out picketing on the street. And so for
What
two
year?
months, I
What
was at
year was
home.
that?
1967. So I was at home. My father went to work immediately. Uh, I was at home with my mother and my younger brother. It was not fun, but I found my parents brought a set of LPs with a manual to study English. It was British English. It was horrible. I listened to that and I studied the manual
Hmm.
and I watched TV and uh, I put things together in my head and I found books to read in English. And by the time I went to school, although they put me in a class called NE3, there were three of these NE classes. NE was
No.
not ESL, it was pre-ESL. It was called NE because there was no English. That's exactly what it was, no English. So I was in a class like that for a month. I started learning Spanish from my very, very warm and uh, um, friendly classmates. But I already was picking up English, and after a month, they took me down to the counselor, and she asked me a couple of yes/no questions, which I showed that I understood, answered yes or no. I was afraid to say too much. Um, and they moved me out into mainstream. So I learned English rather quickly. continued learning it, but by 6 months I was pretty functional. The following year I was in honors
Wow.
classes. So, but they still wouldn't let me take a foreign language because my reading score was from the test they gave me before I knew English, and they wouldn't give me another reading test. So
Oh.
there was a lot happening in those 4 years. Um, but I was not connecting with the Jewish community in an organized way. But I'll tell you, when I was 14, a year later, I started reading Polish books, taking them out of the library, because I realized that if I want to maintain my Polish, I better um, keep reading. And I decided that I wanted to improve the reading speed of my Yiddish, because I read, but I read so slowly that it took me 25 times the same paragraph in a Fotovitz article to actually understand what I was reading. Um, so I developed a program for myself. I read 15 minutes of Yiddish every day. If I was interested in what I was reading, I would struggle through the rest of it. If I wasn't interested, 15 minutes was enough. And, with time, my speed improved and I was able to read and understand and enjoy. So I don't, none of my classmates from Poland who I keep in touch with did that. I did that because it mattered to me. Um, and I didn't really have, I had classmates in school. I didn't have friends. It was a very lonely existence for those 4 years. So the year that my brother went to camp was 1970. And he came back and he was so enthusiastic. And he says, they'll hire you as a counselor. They'd love to have. They don't know me. But when I made contact, they hired me without even giving me an interview. So, and it was just life-changing for me to connect with a community of peers who shared my attachment and valued the same things that I did.
I have an offbeat question. Since you've done so much teaching, what do you want the students to understand about the Yiddish song?
So I teach. I use it in my language classes.
Right. Aside from that, though, but what sense do you want them to get that the song gives them, or
It really depends on the song.
not in general, like Yiddish song does this for you, or the Yiddish song in general does something particular with the language or with the culture that other things don't, or, I don't know. Is there a kind of philosophy about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a hard question. I
I
don't know
know.
that I can
It
answer that.
is a hard question.
I mean, what did, for example, when you started teaching in the Evo program, was that your idea?
No, it wasn't my idea. Yeah, Zeltman said,
Mm,
we'll give you a scholarship for half the tuition, and the other half of the tuition we'll give you a work study. You'll be teaching the Yiddish song workshop. And she gave me a collection of songs, Xerox stapled, and she says, these songs? I said, I know a bunch of them. Some of them I didn't know. I learned the ones that I didn't know, and I did it. I The students didn't complain.
Why have you continued to do it? I mean, is it I mean, trick question here, but I mean, why is it, is it just a good gig? Why are you interested in, why have you continued to include it in your teaching?
In my teaching, as I said, it's
Well,
very useful when you're trying to teach language. If you use song, it stays, it sticks in your memory if you engage with it. I mean, I'll tell you, I sometimes I'm not sure if a word is derdi or dos, what the gender of a noun is. And if I remember it in a song lyric, I don't have to think. I know it's confirmed for me. So very useful in many different ways.
yeah.
And a song is a context.
Yeah.
You're trying to teach language, you teach it through a context. And a song is a contained context, and it extends beyond the song text and the
Yeah,
and
for
the
sure.
music, but it's
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Who put on those songs at Tonic? Did you do that, Itzik? I think you did it it was on for maybe 2 or 3 years. Michael, Peril, you, Josh. There was this other woman, Nita.
Nitsa,
Right,
Nitsa,
yeah.
we
That's
did it.
right.
We did it 3
Mhm.
times.
Three in
Mhm.
3 different years.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Different years.
yeah, because Peril was part of that.
Right. Well, Paddle, you've been teaching. You've been teaching Yiddish for singers for many years, as you said. So I'm just curious, what is the main problem for people who come to it? What I mean, is it the vowels? Is it the gender?
vowels can be a big problem. A lot of singers learn from transliterated texts. They
Oh.
don't know how to read transliterated texts, but they don't know the standard transliteration. There are texts that are transliterated into different systems. They don't know how to pronounce the words, the consonants, the vowels, the blending of between words. They don't know that you don't. Uh, it's a whole bunch of things. Some of it is phonetics, some of it is knowing what the stress of a word is.
Mhm. Sure.
It's a lot of how do you divide the syllables to fit the rhythm? If you don't know the language, if you haven't listened to a recording of somebody who does it the way it should be done.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
people do horrible things to Yiddish songs,
Spoken
and
Yiddish.
many of them are on YouTube. I could teach a course of what not to do.
No.
And it's not just Americans; it's also
No, it's not just
No.
Americans.
For sure not. I
Many
mean,
German singers, they think they've got it all, it's just another dialect of German.
Oh yeah.
right. Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the melody changes the understanding of language.
Well, in order to distribute the syllables,
Right. But that's according to the melody then is dictating in a sense of the way.
actually, no, it's the other way around.
Uh-huh.
It's especially in
Mhm.
folk songs, which have more syllables than you can fit in the meter of
Mhm.
the.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to know which words are emphasized, the word stress, and also the which syllable in the word receives the stress. Otherwise, it sounds like another language, not Yiddish.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
to make the song sound good, which is to say musical.
It becomes an
Not always,
epidemic.
not always. A lot of folk songs are just like
Yeah.
recitative.
Mhm.
Ah, that's the Zugiftig, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Josh's
Sure.
Zugiftig.
Sure.
But for the most part, the text definitely drives the melody. It's my experience.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so. No, I mean, I
Mhm.
just anecdote here. I mean, I came into a recording project where there were, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us contributors to it, and we were, doing these kind of tight harmony singing, but all recording, or most of, or many of us recording remotely, and this was, pre-pandemic too. It's just that we were, in all over the world, and the song was Hirsch Leckert, the song about
Mm.
Leckert and the assassination or attempted assassination of the Russian governor of Vilna in 1897 or whenever it was. And the
Oh, that has
everybody,
so many words per line.
well, yeah, erstens, and Chenis, the everybody else had recorded the line, hat geschossen hat geschossen der Gubernatorin Zeit. And I was like, folks, it's Gubernator. But there were, 5 or 6 tracks already laid down where people were going, Gubernatorin Zeit. And I was like, so it's, for me, it was like, everybody was like, could you just sing it that way? Because it's already laid down. I'm like, okay, I'll put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm a candidate, I'm a weiß mir nicht, was mir weiß nicht.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's
Of
true.
course.
Yeah.
Ah.
That's a song I learned at Camp Hemsech.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And we had a Hirschlecker culture night. We had no services. Friday night was a culture night. There were sketches, there were songs, always on a theme. Hirschlecker culture night.
Huh.
He would have been proud.
Yeah. Was it worth it?
Yeah, right.
Um,
Well, we've been talking a long time, and it's all very fascinating. I don't know, are there other kinds of issues?
Schönen Dank, Perl.
Schönen
Ja.
Dank euch.
Schönen
Gut,
Dank.
abi me seht sich. Chodźcie w Zoom.
Yeah.
Seid gesund.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Dank, Ethel.
Leben gesund sein. Peril, are you usually away at Yiddish New York time, or are there? I mean, I may have just totally missed it. Have you been teaching there some of the time?
I saw you